Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Canine Cannibalism. Today we are going to be taking a look at Billy Silver by Daniel J. Volpe. I did actually look up the pronunciation of the last name this time. Wasn't much help in this circumstance because apparently that can be pronounced Volpe, or Volpe depending on where you are from. So I'm going to go with Volpe because that's what I originally thought it was. But I could be wrong. So, the book is 135 pages broken up into 7 chapters, including an epilogue. I'll give you a quick blurb. A low-life junkie sells his skin for practice at a tattoo shop, hoping for a quick influx of cash. Little does he know that the ink inscribed in his flesh is anything but natural. Junkies are not inherently low-life, by the way. Billy Silver just happens to be a low-life junkie. So, going to be a normal video today. We're going to go over a content sample. We'll also be doing a review. Obviously, it's in the fucking title of the video. We'll be going over a plot summary. And I think that's pretty much it for this video. So, without further ado, we're going to jump into a content sample for Billy Silver. If you were to pick up a copy of Billy Silver by Daniel J. Volpe and read it, you would find all of the following. You have your bog standard gore, torture, mutilation, and death. And in this book that does include cannibalism, genital mutilation, self-harm, and suicide. There is also sexual abuse in the book, including sexual assault, rape, and necrophilic acts. In addition, there is child abuse, including physical abuse and infanticide, and then there is also child death in the book. There is also animal abuse, including physical abuse, and animal death. Then, there is intimate partner abuse, elder abuse, and addiction of a myriad of sorts. In terms of really gross shit, you're going to have shit scenes, including coprophilic acts and coprophagic acts. There is also a scene in particular with urine, and a couple of scenes with puking, vomit, like descriptive vomiting. Then you have your general filth, including the ingestion of vaginal discharge. I only include things like that or cum eating if it's in a gross circumstance. So in this instance, lots of sensory detail as to like how it's kind of fermented and gross. There's also hoarding and an anal prolapse, but like the person's dead and it's being forced to happen upon them. But it's still a prolapse, so I included that. And that is it. That's a pretty large content sample comparatively to some of the stuff I've been doing recently. We are going to get into a general review, and actually we're just going to jump straight into ratings. If you are unfamiliar with my rating system, I take a series of attributes that you could judge a book on, and then I rate those attributes for a given book on a scale from 0 to 10. These first numbers are rated on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is absolutely abysmal, 10 is impossibly perfect, and 5 is completely mid. It's not good, not bad, it's there. For Billy Silver by Daniel J. Volpe, your plot and plot direction is going to be a 4. Overall, I thought the plot was fine. There were a couple of things that were very clearly like an overdone trope, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, there was one really dumb dream scene. Most of the things that I read to you from the content sample were from the dream scene. The dream scene was extremely try-hard. Extremely try-hard. It was unnecessary. It started fine, right? He's asleep. Very violent dream, okay? Cuts off his cock and balls and eats them. That's fine. I guess this is light spoilers. I mean, it's not really any worse than giving you the content sample, but light spoilers. Cuts off his cock and balls and eats them. Okay? Whatever. Then he pokes his eyes out. Okay, sure. Then, while blinded, he hears a baby crying, picks up what he assumes to be the baby, and starts eating it alive. And at that point, I laughed and closed the book because what are we doing here? It's so try hard. It was such a try hard scene. It was trying so hard to gross and disturb, and it became funny as a result because cock and ball eating, pokes his eyes out, sure. Then random baby eating. It just felt like, and then this, and then this, and then this, and it did nothing for the plot, and it was not good, and it had the opposite effect of what I would assume it was supposed to be the intended effect. Just not good. Not good. So, 4. And then overall, it was fine. Tropey, a little bit meh, but fine. Your tone is going to be like a low 6. Again, fine. There were a couple of scenes that I would say tone-wise were done impeccably well. There is a murder scene that I think is done very decently when it comes to its tone. Overall, though, it's fine. It's nothing to write home about in either camp, good or bad. It's just there. Your characters and character development is going to be a 5. There were characters. They were decently developed. You could argue that they were kind of 2D a little bit. However, in this circumstance, because they're junkies, hardcore junkies, I feel like it kind of works, because at the point that some of these characters are at, you really are kind of a 2D human being. It's just wake up, do everything possible to get your next high, get high, go back to sleep if you can, depending on your poison of choice. So I guess it kind of works, but some of the characters are kind of flat. Grammar and typos is going to be a 2. There were a lot of comma splices. A lot of comma splices. I think, for the most part, the comma splices were intentional, like for pacing, and I would say generally it worked okay. Specifically in a couple of instances, I would say it worked very well, but sometimes it came off as very clunky and amateurish. There was also at least one improper parenthetical clause. There was an improper use of a semicolon, and then there were typos throughout, and I think it got worse towards the end. I wasn't really paying attention. There were typos throughout. Your dialogue is going to be a 5. Perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable, didn't seem cringy, didn't jump out of the page at me. Totally fine. Your prose is also a 5. There was one bad thing and one good thing, and they kind of evened out, alright? Some of the sentences, on top of there being grammatical issues, were clunky. They were formatted weird. Just the prose in general came off as clunky at certain points. The best example of this is on page 104, or a really good example of this. It was the middle of the night, but the streetlights provided enough light to see. Billy couldn't see anything. Granted, that's not one sentence, that's 2 sentences being clunky because they're back-to-back like that, but I get what you're saying, kind of. The streetlights generally provide enough light to see, but Billy specifically in this instance couldn't see anything. But it just, like, I think there would have been way better ways of getting that thought across than the way that it comes across, because it just kind of seems like you forgot what the sentence before was saying about there being enough light to see. It just came off as a little clunky. There were a couple of other instances, I didn't write them down, but that one specifically, just, you could have maybe done that a little better, in my opinion. And now there's going to be some fucking literary jerk in the comments just being like, well, just because your understanding of the material is subpar. But generally, I think given how the rest of the work is formatted, we're not looking at like a fucking Tolstoy here, where we're looking at general normalcy with a little bit of subpar stuff in terms of grammar. So it's not really like my level of understanding in terms of literature isn't enough to grasp it. It just seems like it was not crafted well, especially in that instance. The good thing, really good figurative language. Incredible figurative language throughout. Metaphors, similes, done very, very well. It paints a very, very decent picture. I enjoyed it a lot. So those two things offset, it's a 5. For your personal enjoyment, it's a 5. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was short and some semi-sweet because it was short. But it's really not much of anything, if I'm honest. It's really not. Like, the concept is kind of interesting. Again, very tropey at certain points. Like, exactly what you think will happen happens. I don't know about Edward Lee's. This is a unique story that should ruffle the corridors of a new extremism in American fiction. I don't know about that. It's very derivative. It's very tropey at certain points. It's just kind of there. If you're looking for a quick fix with some pretty disturbing violence, extreme scenes, this is good. If you're looking for something with like more plot, I would not even consider this for a moment, aside from maybe the sort of kind of unique backbone of the plot, like the backstory of everything supernatural going on. Other than that, it's really not much. So that's a 5. And to be fair, I'm not always looking for like super in-depth plot shit, but this one didn't even really scratch my itch of lots of gross shit. There was the dream sequence. There's a pretty violent murder sequence. A lot of girlfriend beating. And that's pretty much it. So it's not like, I don't know, Genital Grinder or something, where it's just kind of fucking terrible, but also fun to read. It's not really that. It's a little bit too little for that. And it's not funny. It's not darkly comedic. It seems to take itself seriously. So these next two numbers are your disturbing factor and your gross out factor, rated on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is not disturbing, not gross at all, and 10 is the most disturbing, the most gross that you can possibly imagine. For Billy Silver by Daniel J. Volpe, your disturbing factor is a 6. Pretty decently disturbing, I would say. There is self-harm. There is suicide. There is eating babies in a dream sequence. Still eating babies. It's rather disturbing. It's about at the level of something like The Night Stalkers or other Triana books. It's around that level of sleazy and disturbing. Yeah. Your gross out factor is going to be a 3. It's kind of gross in a couple of scenes. I'd say it's about as gross as something like All Smiles by Aaron Beauregard or Full Brutal by Triana again. So it's kind of in a similar vein to like Triana works. And yeah, that's about it for your ratings. We are going to get into a plot summary now. Massive spoiler warning, I'm going to spoil to you the major plot points of the book. As always, a plot summary is never going to do a book justice, though sometimes I may try. I also purposefully cut my summaries even shorter than necessary in order to ensure that if you were to go and read the given book, you would have a very different experience. I would highly recommend you go and read Billy Silver by Daniel J. Volpe. Fucking knows. Not me. Daniel does. There will be a link in the description. As always, go support the author. All that good shit. We're going to get into it now. Leave. Spoilers. Yada yada. Here we go. Billy Silver, a low-life piece of shit, self-downtrodden junkie, is living it big in his own small world. He spends his days shooting up, nipping the bottle, beating and raping his girlfriend, and singing lead in his death metal band whenever he bothers to show up for practice. One day, on his way to practice, Billy sees a sign for a new tattoo shop. He speaks with the man sweeping the front. The man tells him that the artists are looking for skin to practice on, and that the human canvases will be paid $100 for their generosity. Billy mulls it over. A little later, Billy beats the absolute shit out of his girlfriend when she suggests he pawn his guitar so they can get their next hit. He then leaves to go to one of his band's shows. Before they even begin their set, Billy, already shit-faced, pukes over the front row and blacks out. Billy wakes up to an empty apartment. He calls one of his bandmates, who officially kicks him out. Jonesing, Billy hightails it to the tattoo shop where a sensual goddess named Talia flirts with him, talks him up, tattoos a random sigil into his arm, pays him, and sends him out the door. Over the coming days, Billy has a number of extremely graphic, violent dreams, none of which he remembers. He also finds that he craves the needle less and less. This addiction is quickly replaced by another, however, when the tattoo begins burning. That's kind of cool, by the way, how he switches one needle for another. I didn't catch that when I was reading it, but writing down the plot summary, I caught it. That's kind of cool. Don't know that was intentional. Kind of cool. Billy quickly finds the only thing that will sate the tattoo, as well as his own yearning, is pain and blood, his own or someone else's. He starts small by breaking his small toe, biting off the tip of his tongue, and shoving needles under his nails. He finds his thoughts turning more and more sadomasochistic. Finally, the low-key self-harm isn't enough for him. He cuts off one of his fingers before leaving his apartment and brutally murdering a local homeless man. Billy, completely terrified of what his newfound obsession will lead him to do, which, kind of silly that we got to this point before we tried to confront that, returns to the tattoo shop for answers. When he arrives, he finds it boarded up and sporting flyers that are over a year old. Even more concerned, he returns home and cuts the tattoo from his arm down to the muscle. After cauterizing the wound and with relief washing over him, he realizes that the tattoo has reappeared on his chest. Billy then goes on a rampage. He kills his dealer, his ex-girlfriend, the girl who left him, then heads to a local bar where his former band is performing with a new singer. He changes the doors and lights himself on fire, throwing Molotov cocktails all around himself. He watches as the bar crumbles around him before succumbing to the flame. And that's it. That's the end of the book. Yeah. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I read all of my comments. I'll drop you a heart, drop you a like, reply if applicable. As always, my opinions are my opinions and my opinions alone. I would highly recommend you form your own opinions. Go read Billy Silver by Daniel J. Volpe. Always good to form your own opinions, being a functioning member of the human race, all that great shit. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.